stars shine in the Knicks Boston series. And does this have anybody kind of thinking what could have been? Brennan, if Detroit was in this matchup versus Boston, do you think they would have the same success that New York is having?
Well, I think it's a little tougher for Detroit because I feel like the Knicks are really stifling Tatum with OG and Mikal Bridges. Now we have a SAR, but I don't think we have the wing tandem that kind of bother Tatum as much as the Knicks do. But Boston is kind of giving the games away. Now I want to give the Knicks their credit. They are capitalizing on Boston, shooting threes and missing in the clutch and just taking the ball off transition and getting a lot of mismatches, but Austin is giving the games away. So, and Detroit showed that Detroit was never they never quit in these playoffs. Anytime they would get down by like 10 or 11, they still made it a game every game against the Knicks. So maybe if Boston was still puke on themselves like they have been, Detroit could stay in the game and K could try to help close it out. But I do think that the tandem of OG and Mikal Bridges have been super valuable throughout these playoffs as a whole. And we have a SAR, but who's the other guy that's really going to lock in on the perimeter? So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I think the Knicks have the upper hand against Detroit in that situation.
And what's helping the Knicks right now is Mikal is not alone. Like you said, they have an OG as well. When they're down trapping Tatum, getting the turnover, Mikal has someone else there. That's how he's able to give that pressure. But at the same time, Boston is missing every 3-point shot. I listened to something today that, Boston and the Cavs are like the highest volume, highest make 3-point team, but they're both shooting below 26%. And it's almost like it's not what as much as what New York is doing. It's more on what is Boston not doing. And it's just hitting shots. And that's what's going to happen when you live and die by the three. Kind of like those Houston. We were talking about James Harden a little bit before the podcast. It's kind of like the Houston Rockets days.
Yeah. I think I think two things can be true with this Knicks Celtics series in regards to the Pistons. I think one thing that can be true is there is no chance in actual hell that the Pistons would be doing this exact same thing as the Knicks. I think it's important to acknowledge that, because I think a big reason why the Knicks have been able to do what they've done is because of the fact that they have the clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson, and they have a veteran poised squad that is able to get into those comebacks. We've seen the Pistons cut deficits in the Knicks series and, throughout the season. It's a different thing to do that in the playoffs. And I think even like you look back at like game 1 against the Knicks when they had that 20-point run, the Pistons were really trying to hit home run balls to get back into that game. I think it's one thing to show the poise to have that comeback in the regular season. It's another thing to have that poise in the postseason. And a lot of the players on the Knicks are actually extremely experienced playoff guys. Like 4 of those 5 guys have been a part of like conference finals or championships of some form. Like I think the only one on there is like Josh Hart, but even then, he's just a playoff hooper too. I think the other thing though that can be true is that you got to be pretty excited if you're a Pistons fan and if you're a Pistons executive, because this team that's up 2-0 and could go to the conference finals and has the defending champs literally questioning everything. Not only did the Pistons make their lives a living hell, but if you've listened to the Knicks talk about it, one thing Campaign said to a reporter in the locker room after game 1 of Celtics and Knicks, he said, "Man, thank God for that Pistons series," because the Knicks credit the Pistons to waking up a different side of them, to making them a different team, like that physicality and that, that intensity that the Pistons brought. The Knicks fully believe that series made them and tested them and made them a better team. And the Knicks are saying that about a young Pistons team that were without 2 of their best players. Yeah. And so when we go into this, Dungeons and Pistons game and all this stuff, and we start talking about the offseason, if you're Trajan Langdon, if you're JB Bickerstaff and you see just how much success this team has had, how much risky moves or questionable decisions have set this franchise back for years, why would you not want to give this team some leeway to see what they can do if guys are healthier, with more continuity, with an offseason to develop. We just brought up how the Tigers are the best team in the American League right now. Did any of us think that they were going to do that if they didn't go out and get Alex Bregman this offseason?
Yep,
Like,
and
legitimately.
Javi Baez still starting.
Yeah, exactly.
Torque?
Did anyone think that Spencer Torkelson was going to be the catalyst to one of the best offenses in baseball? No.
They have three
But
players.
that team was given the runway to develop and to given the chance. And listen, I was one of the people that was calling the Tigers morons. So I will gladly say I was wrong about that. But if you're the Pistons, learn from the teams throughout the league. Learn from history. Like, what's the point of breaking something that isn't even near broken?
Yeah. Yeah, wait until some cracks start to show. Because this year, you can say there were things that didn't work, but was there anything truly catastrophic? I wouldn't say so. So go into next year, and if something starts to trend that way, then make a move. Then say,
Trajan?
okay, then we can start to think about how we can patch this, but there's nothing to patch yet.
Trajan said in exit interviews that he had multiple guys tell him this was their favorite year of their career.
Think about the ages on some of these guys too, especially the veterans.
Think about how the best team in the league has built themselves. OKC has been patient. They could have mortgaged their future a long time ago, but now they are beating the Nuggets by 1,000 points in the playoff series. It's like, just let it. I mean, I understand the logic of sometimes you want to get a star next to somebody. We don't have a Chet Holmgren or a Jalen Williams right now, but let's find out if we have one first before we just move everybody.
Yeah.
Especially if the best one that everyone's linking to your team, and I'm not trying to drag this person's name in the mud, but if Zion Williamson is your best option, for the love of all that is good, wait for a better option.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple names, but yeah, you're right. Zion is probably the top of that. The one that fans have kind of put the square peg into the round hole is Giannis. Everyone wants Giannis, and everybody's mentioning it. Is that realistic? No. I haven't seen the Detroit Pistons on any of the betting odds for any of these star players this year. Zach LaVine, maybe a little bit just because of the holdover from the last regime. Ingram was not there. Zion was not there, and Trajan was there. He was in New Orleans with those guys. So it's one of those things where I'm just curious to see who that first big name will be. Sabonis, actually, Brennan, remember one of the first episodes we did together a couple months ago, we talked about Sabonis. And that's an interesting fit, kind of shoring up what kind of the half-court offense needs, but it takes away so much else. Sean, I see you shaking your head here.
I think Domantas Sabonis is one of the most overrated players in the history of the game. And I don't want to take anything away from his offensive ability, from his playmaking. There's a lot of aspects of Domantas Sabonis where he is a legitimately good basketball player. But we have seen time and 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 time again that this guy's not a playoff performer. And also, he's not a very good defensive player at all. So if you were to go out and get him, you would have to probably play him alongside of Jalen Duren. You'd have to rely on him being a floor spacer, which he's also just shown to not be either. So in my opinion, I think you would find out what the Kings found out, which is when Domantas Sabonis is one of your best players, your ceiling is inherently limited. And so I think Domantas Sabonis is one of those guys that we'll look at as like an all-star caliber player that, you know, was one of the more consistent players we had night in, night out, especially in the regular season. But I think there's a reason why we haven't seen Domantas Sabonis have that signature Domas playoff game. Well, and I think there's a reason why the Kings are closer to rebuilding and the Pacers are closer to a conference finals after the trade they made for Halliburton and Sabonis.
Yeah, Brennan, I want to hear your point on this. I just want to say, though, with Sabonis is we've only seen him in his career be with OKC as a deep role player to being the guy in Indiana, to being the guy in Sacramento. I'm really curious to see what he could do as the second or third guy. The thing is, though, he is not paid necessarily to be in that role. But if you can get him there, because you have some young guys, and I know extensions are going to start kicking in, but if you have Cade and then Ivy or Asar or Duren, and then you put Sabonis as your three, is that something he'd want to do? Probably not, but it makes more sense.
was he not already your second or third guy in Sacramento? Like, did they not have De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk?
That's a tough one, though. I consider them all in the same
Yeah.
sort of echelon. Like Cade, I feel like is up there. Brennan, what do you got?
I was gonna say, at least with the Kings point, he probably was a third scoring option, but touches, I wouldn't be surprised if he
Mm.
was first or second in touches on that team. Totally agree in terms of a playoff player. I kind of said it at that point. The half court offense will be a little better, and he already does a dribble handoff game that JB loves to run. But in terms of defense, that's limits your ceiling as a team. 'Cause if you have to play him at the four, that means he's supposed to be a floor spacer. Teams will not respect his shot, even though he shot 40% this year. He shot like 2 attempts a game. That's not enough to garner respect to the defense to actually close out. So the spacing would be nasty. And if he's your five, the rim protection is out the window. Like when he's trapping the pick and roll or coming to the level, he's okay. But as an offense in the playoffs, I would still feel very comfortable attacking a Sabonis-led defense. So it depends on how much you got to give up, how much he's paid. If he's paid $55 million a year, I don't really like the sound of that. So he wouldn't be the first star that's on my board. With that contract, I really wouldn't be that intrigued with the Pistons not already having a floor spacer. If Isaiah Stewart was a 38% shooter and he could play 35 minutes a game with that defense still, it might be different. But that is not who Stu is at this point. Probably that's not who he. I want who he will be basically. So I'm not too intrigued in Sabonis, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like if you get him, you have to make adjustments and you have to change a lot, which takes away the identity of the team and it takes away the kind of the culture that has been built. But if you can get Cade and Sabonis surrounded by players that would fit the system, that is an elite offense. And if you can still figure a way to put in an Asar Thompson and Ron Holland off the bench, I think that could be a really intriguing lineup. But that's something we can talk about more. I mean, this is the offseason. We got a lot of time to talk about potential fits, and there's going to be a lot of rumors because when you see a team rising like this, there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made.